What? You're still here? Oh my goodness. Okay, well, if you watched the boring parts one and two first, here's part three. I hope it doesn't bore you too much. Okay, the purpose of part one was really to make the following point. Okay, just reading scripture by itself can be dangerous. You can get the wrong impression. In other words, we need an objective method. If you want to propose the Bible as an objective standard of morality, we need an objective method of determining whether a text is prescriptive or descriptive, and moreover, not just whether it's that, but what exactly is being prescribed. Okay? I don't think this is a very controversial position. At least, all the pastors that I had when I was growing up pretty much told me this, right? I mean, you need to read scripture in the right way in order to understand what it actually has to say. Now, here's the problem. I really don't know of an objective method which will work. I suspect there's not one. If there was one, why would there be so many brands of Christianity? And indeed, why would Judaism and Christianity be two different religions? But obviously, let's try to find one anyways, right? Okay, now we got to start somewhere. So here's the first draft. This is the objective standard, or this is the principles of interpretation that I'm using in this video series, right? So the first one tells whether something is prescriptive or descriptive, and the second one says what is being prescribed. Okay, so first draft. So A, if a statement comes from a law code, I mean, we're talking the Ten Commandments, we're talking Levitical law, we're talking Deuteronomy. If a statement comes from a law code, it's prescriptive. Now, this seems pretty obvious, right? I think that's pretty solid, you know. And B goes as follows. Okay, if God said that He actually did something, whatever God did doesn't violate any prescriptive laws. Now, the rationale for this is God is holy, God cannot sin, therefore God doesn't do any evil, therefore God doesn't violate any prescriptive laws. So this is my first draft. Okay, like I said, I'm not really that happy with it, but I think it's relatively uncontroversial. This is what I'm going to go with. Okay, so with that in mind, let's go to the Levitical laws that you bring up here. You bring up Leviticus 18:16, and you bring it up in the following context. So, say I proposed Deuteronomy 25:5 as the basically classic statement of levirate marriage, and I said that it held even if you're already married. So it implies polygyny. Now, your answer to this was basically that Deuteronomy 25:5 doesn't need an escape clause because it's well known that if you're already married, you shouldn't marry your sister-in-law. And the proof text was Leviticus 18. Now, honestly, Veritas, this one really puzzled me. I really, honest to God, I wonder why you brought up these two together. Let me explain why. Okay, let's double click on these guys and read them and see what they say. Okay, so Deuteronomy 25:5-6, the one I provided, is just a simple classic statement of levirate marriage. Okay, the widow of the deceased shall not marry anyone outside the family, but her husband's brother shall marry her. I've eliminated some stuff to make it fit on the page. The first son she bears will carry on the name of her dead brother. Okay, this is just classic levirate marriage that we see in any pastoral society on the globe. Now, the one you gave, Leviticus 20:21, goes as follows. If there is a man who takes his brother's wife, it is abhorrent. They will be childless. Now, I don't see how these are even compatible with each other. They seem to be flatly contradictory, right? So since this is not obvious, I mean, let's walk through it, right? Okay, so two cases, right? There's a guy who's got a wife and there's a guy who doesn't have a wife. Let's go through the first case, right? Say there's a guy who's got a wife, okay? He's also got a brother who just died, all right? Now the question, should he marry the widow? Yes or no, right? Okay, if you go to Deuteronomy 25:5, the answer is clearly yes. However, if you go to Leviticus 20:21, if there is a man who takes his brother's wife, it is abhorrent. They will be childless. Okay, so the answer is no. Okay, now I agree with this. Okay, Leviticus 20 is contradicting what it says in Deuteronomy here, but Does the situation change if the dude doesn't have a wife? Okay, so let's take the other wife out of the picture. Case two, right? It still seems that they're contradictory. I mean, it still seems to me that Deuteronomy 25:5 says you should do it, and Leviticus 20:21 says you shouldn't do it. Okay, so in point of fact, you know, I really don't see how your harmonization of these two texts is really going to work. I just think they're flatly contradictory. If, okay, big if here, you know, big if is, well, if you think that there's no contradictions in the Bible, you've got to resolve these somehow. Okay, so I don't think the harmonization you gave will work, but you did give a previous argument that I think gives us a clue, okay? Recall in a previous video, you said that Abraham and Sarah, which actually are half brother and half sister, aren't subject to the Levitical laws because the Levitical laws hadn't been given yet. Quite right, okay? Yes. They lived before the Levitical laws were given. Okay, they practiced levirate marriage in a pastoral society. The Levitical laws here were given later, and they describe a non-levirate system of marriage in an agricultural society, right? So here's the resolution. The contradiction here is only a problem if you take both Leviticus and Deuteronomy as holding absolutely for all people at all time. It's no problem at all if you do the following, okay? Deuteronomy 25:5 describes levirate marriage in a pastoral society, and Leviticus 20:21 gives laws for an agricultural society. Simple resolution, right? Now, a reason why I like this revolution or the resolution in this interpretation is because it allows me to fill in one of my empty gaps here, right? I didn't have anything for the agricultural society, right? I claimed on the basis of Ruth that the levirate was going out of style. Okay, now here in Leviticus, we have an absolute prohibition of the levirate. So this is really, I mean, if we have Deuteronomy 25:5, which describes a pastoral society with the levirate, we have Leviticus, which describes an agricultural society without the levirate, and in the between we have Ruth demonstrating a transition. So, yeah, I actually like this text, but probably not for the reasons that you gave.